With one more glance around the living room, she flicked off the lights. The darkness rushed in like a breath held too long, and a cold, primal itch prickled down her spine, urging her to move faster. She sprinted up the stairs like a young child running from the shadow man at the foot of every child's darkened staircase, always just one step behind you. At 30 years old, that fear had never left. She gave a chuckle once the light was on, and she was securely behind her bedroom door. Then she clicked that latch in place also. Sarah knew that no matter how many locks she placed between herself and the world was always lurking right behind it. The bed was huge, an old king-size that she inherited from her father's room. New mattress, of course. Now it felt too vast. She kicked off her Crocs and climbed in, wrapping herself in the heavy blankets. The emptiness of the room seemed to press in on her from all sides. It wasn't the first time she'd crawled into that bed alone, but it never got easier. She buried her face in the pillow, the cool brushed cotton against her skin. She wanted the comfort of another body next to hers, wanted the warmth of a man's arms, to feel the prickle of little hairs against her cheek as she drifted off to sleep. But that kind of closeness didn't feel safe anymore. The world was too unpredictable, too dangerous. Sarah wasn't new to the world of inequality, but it had been a recent addition to her life. She'd spent most of her younger years sheltered from the harshness of the world, her father always there to protect her. He'd taught her the value of standing tall, of fighting back when the world tried to keep her down. But he'd also shielded her from most of the dirty work, the kind of unfairness that most women had to deal with on a daily basis. His reputation preceded him when he was alive, and it sheltered her even when he wasn't with her. There were no catcalls in the street, no disrespect in the pubs. She lived in a bubble of his making. Oblivious. The one boyfriend she'd had in her 20s, a relatively decent guy, had proven to be more interested in hopping between countries with only a backpack for company than in building anything that resembled a life partnership. She didn't mind, though. She'd always had her father's voice in her head, telling her to be independent, and besides, she really hated his cat, the ginger prick. Recently, things had started to shift. Her wages had dropped at the pharmacy, though she still had the job, a small mercy considering how many people were being pushed out. The work itself had become emotionally harder too. The rules around sales were more stringent now, with quotas that felt more like commands than suggestions. She had to pick up more shifts to make ends meet, something she never thought she'd have to do. She was lucky her rent was cheap. It had to be, considering the state of the place. It was old, in a bad area, and the walls were dotted with suspicious black splodges. She couldn't decide if they were the first signs of a new virus movie or just damp. Either way, it was one more thing to deal with in a world that seemed to be getting darker by the day. She could feel the weight of that reality settling on her chest. The last thing she needed was a man. Even if she didn't want to be alone tonight, even if the idea of company, real company, was something she craved. But it would only be one more risk, one more complication. No one could differentiate between ally and enemy anymore, so instead she lay there in the silence, her hands curled into fists under the covers, and tried not to think about the chaos of tomorrow, of the world outside her window, of the things that could come creeping through her door.